ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। So in the last class, we started discussing on the section in which we find Bhagavan is instructing Arjuna in Jnana Yoga. That in the 24th sloka of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we found that the culmination of all the yajnas has been mentioned as the Brahma Yajna. What's that? That whatever you are doing, do it with a sense that it is a dedication to that ultimate reality, which is the only unitary existence in the entire world. The idea was the one who is offering, he is Brahman. The thing which is offered is Brahman. The one to whom you are offering is Brahman. So it's the way of seeing the divine in everything. So very interestingly, when Swami Vivekananda was giving a lecture in the West on Vedanta, and as the summum bonum of the entire lecture, one of the audience stood up and told Swamiji, after hearing your lecture, I feel that the essence of your talk is as if God is everything. And Swami Vivekananda immediately told that it's not exactly the way what you are saying, not God is everything. And then his reply was, God is, everything is not. It's very interesting. God is, everything is not. What's the idea? That when, suppose because of the lack of proper light, you are seeing a snake in a rope. In a rope you are seeing a snake. This is a very common example in Vedanta. Now you never see the snake and the rope together. Have you ever seen? No. Because of delusion, it may so happen that you are not seeing the snake instead of the snake. You are not seeing the rope. Instead of the rope, you are seeing it as a snake. And when the delusion is over, you see it as a rope. The snake has vanished, isn't it? The snake and the rope never exists together. So the idea is, as long as I'm seeing the world, know it for certain, I am not aware of Brahman. It's impossible. But the moment you are aware of Brahman, you cannot see the world. Because this world is nothing but the projection of Brahman. But when we say God is everything, everything is Brahman, yes, this is a way. But this is not the ultimate truth. That's why we say there cannot be any Advaitic sadhana. Because Advaita is a realization. It's a realization through all the Dvaitic practices, through all dualistic practices. At last you go to that non-dual experience. But the non-duality can never be experienced when we are experiencing the phenomenon. And that's the very idea when it's being indicated in the 24th mantra of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavi, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, Brahmakarma samadhina. That everything is Brahman. But to go to that realization, it's just not mere words. As we were indicating, it's a realization. Through spiritual practice, we have to go to a state which in our scripture has been indicated as samadhi, where the entire phenomenal existence obliterates. Your idea of individuality, that I am this individual at present, even if I close my eyes, if I close my ears, if I stop the interaction of the senses with the world, and I sit in one place quietly and try to calm down my mind, there is no thoughts, no perceptions, But can you get rid of one thing? It's impossible. The idea of the individuality, that something like I is emanating from a center. I cannot get rid of that. I cannot jump out of my limited individuality. At present, as long as I'm in ignorance, I can sit, I can stop all the interaction with the world. To a certain extent, I can calm down my mind, but I know that I am local. I am sitting in one place. I have a center from where the idea of individuality is emanating. If I open my eyes, I look outside. With the help of all the modern technology, with the telescope, you can see the far off galaxies also. You can be aware. With your mind, you can travel anywhere. And then someone comes and says, the galaxy you see, that's not the end. There is something even beyond. So with your mind, you can travel anywhere. You can go beyond the last galaxy, which is perceptible with even the modern technology. Even beyond that, you can go. With your mind, you can, so something must be there beyond it. But can you get rid of the idea that I am sitting somewhere? No. So why we are saying this? Very nicely, Swami Vivekananda has given the definition of an ordinary jiva and God. God and an individual like us. What's that? That we as an individual are beings which has a center. It's like a circle. We are all circles which have a center, but which has no circumference. The circumference can be infinite. If someone says this is the last, even with your thought, you can go beyond that. So we are all a circle which have a center, but which has no circumference. And when you go to that Advaitic realization, you become as if one with the divine existence. Then what happens? The entire existence obliterates. Of course, you are not interacting with the world. The mind has stopped. But another wonderful thing happens. The idea of locality, which I can never get rid of at present, that I am located somewhere, sitting here in the shrine, now at present. I can never get rid of that idea. When you go to that realization, suddenly you're still aware of your amness, that you are, but that loses its locality. In the words of Ramakrishna, a salt doll, the moment it got down into the ocean to measure the depth of the ocean, it melts. Who will give the measurement of the depth of the ocean? The moment it gets. So our individuality in samadhi, it diffuses. It becomes non-local. You are aware of your amness, but that amness as if has no locality. If you read the life of Swami Vivekananda, when he was pestering Ramakrishna to go into that state of nirvikalpa samadhi, in Kashipur, in the last days of Ramakrishna, then a wonderful realization happened. One day Naren was meditating, and he went into a deep state of meditation. He was totally motionless. It appeared that he is totally oblivious of the surrounding. He is even as if unaware of himself. He was in deep contemplation. And when he came out of that contemplation, as it was the first time when he went into that state of nirvikalpa samadhi, he was pestering Ramakrishna. And this is the first time he had. So it was something like a shock for him when he was coming out. He was yet to get back his full consciousness. He was aware of himself, but he was not aware of any sort of locality. He started shouting, "Where is my hand? Where is my feet? Where is my body? Where is my head?" He was just shouting. Advaitananda, Buro Gopal, he went to Ramakrishna to give him the news that most probably Naren is going to die. He is behaving in a very awkward way. And Ramakrishna was, of course, in his sick bed. At that time, he was not even in a position to get up. But he understood the entire thing. In his bed, just he was lying, totally unperturbed. He replied, "That rascal has perturbed me a lot. Let him be in that state for a while. That he was pestering me, at last he has went to that state. Let him be in that state. You need not be afraid. He will be okay." So just why we are indicating, so that's the state. Two things. One thing is, of course, the phenomenal existence obliterates. It's no more there. And you yourself are there, but it has lost its locality. Now we will understand why they say that Atman and Brahman are same. Because of ignorance at present, I have a sense of locality. It's a diseased state. I am local. The moment you go to that Advaitic realization, that locality is lost. You still exist. Amness is there. But that locality is no more there. So the word Brahma came from Brih Dhatu. Brih means Brihat. That Atman is Brahman. Why? When you go to that realization, you realize that locality is lost. The thing you were thinking yourself as if sitting here as a small entity, immediately suddenly feeling that you are the only existence. And you are aware of that existence. That why the one who has gone to that realization say that it is not that from matter the world has emanated. Consciousness has somehow emanated from matter, because they have realized that the ultimate state, when even the mind ceases to exist, you still exist. But that existence has no locality. From that, when you come down, the Vyuthana, in Vedanta they say Vyuthana, from Samadhi, again you are coming back. You are again in your mind and senses. Now again you see the world. But now you understand that the entire city, that Sri Ramakrishna is giving that example in the gospel, that someone made a model of the entire city with wax. So now when you come down, you see the entire city is made of wax. It is all permeated with consciousness and consciousness alone. As in the Vedanta they say that yatra yatra manoyati tatra tatra param padam drishyate. When you come that from the state, now with your mind, wherever your mind is going, you see the consciousness and consciousness alone. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say very nicely, just in a rainy season, when you are walking on the grass field, you find that the grass field is totally drenched with water. Similarly, a man of realization, when he comes down from that realization, when he's Vyuthana, he comes back from the Samadhi, he finds the entire existence is drenched with consciousness. Even a bhakta sees the same way. Like in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, nicely it's mentioned, Jatra Jatra Netra Pare Tatra Tatra Krishna Sfure. Krishna is as if blooming. Wherever my eyes fall, from where I find Krishna is blooming. The entire world becomes as if nothing but the permeated with the divine. When Sri Ramakrishna was in Dakshineshwar, suddenly for few days a madcap came. He was mad. Everyone felt he's apparently mad. Always he was smiling, and he always used to walk with a small chandelier in his hand. He will just go on moving it in the sunlight, and the shades will start playing, light and shade will start playing on the ground in the daytime, and he will see that light and shade, and he will just go on saying, Prapanch, this ye sab prapancha hai, prapancha, prakrishta rupena pancha. Prapancha means this world. What this world is actually. This world is nothing but what I see with the five senses. It's all the conglomeration of the things of the five senses. The consciousness getting associated with the mind is projecting as this world of five senses, objects of the five senses. And that's what our world is. So the chandelier is like that mind through which the sunlight is permeating to create that wonderful design of light and shade, that panorama of light and shade. And seeing that, the sadhu is constantly aware. He appears to be a madcap, but he is not mad. He is always aware of the fact it is just the projection of the consciousness, nothing else. The world of name and form is consciousness alone. Consciousness appearing through the mind and the senses appears this world of name and form. He is constantly aware of that fact, and that's why the 24th mantra is saying everything is Brahman. So now you will realize that it is not a matter of mere words. It needs a definite lifestyle. It needs some practices to go to that realization, to get established in that Brahma Yajna, which has been spoken of by Bhagavan as the ultimate, that sarva karma akhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. In the 33rd verse of the 4th chapter, we read that all sorts of yajna at last culminates in jnana, in this Brahma Yajna. So hearing this, we may even immediately think, oh well, why not think everything is Brahman and try to start leading the life by thinking everything as Brahman, and that will speak of my highest state of attainment. No. It's not mere intellectual accent. It is not mere intellectual consent. It has to go to that state of realization, and then only you become convinced, you go beyond all doubts. You become Gata Samshaya, you become Drira Nishchaya. As in the Khandana, we find that while singing about the epithets of Guru Maharaj, that what he represents, in one place we find he's saying Gata Samshaya. All the doubts has vanished. Once you realize, there cannot be any doubt. As long as you have not realized, there can be doubt. Intellectually, I can't prove anything, I can disapprove anything in this world. You will find it palpable in the court. Even if you have proper evidence, some lawyer with the wonderful capacity of establishing his way of judgment, he can even disapprove the fact. He has the capacity. With his intellectuality, he can. We find that in courts so many times it happens. With your intellectual, this intellectual is like a double-edged sword. Anything you can prove, anything you can disapprove. So intellectuality is not the criteria of ascertaining the truth. That's why, however the lawyer may be intelligent, at last the importance is of the witness, isn't it? Even in the court you find the witness is of the prior importance. What you have seen. So here also, that's the thing, that it's not just mere your intellectual capacity to explain a thing and interpret a thing. That's the criteria of being established in truth. The real criteria is whether you have realized or not, seen or not, witnessed it or not. So once you have witnessed, there cannot be any doubt. That's why it is called Gata Samshaya. And then you have the conviction. No one can swerve you from that conviction. Drira Nishchaya. Your man become a man of full conviction. And that's why in the religious history we find those who have went to that realization, they have such a big conviction when the society is warning them that what you are speaking is blasphemy. Just in Islam you will find Al-Haq means the ultimate truth. God is the ultimate truth. And they, of course, in all the Abrahamic religions, I have the idea of duality. That I am separate from God. God is, I am. God is the ruler. I am his subject. I have to obey him. I can never be one with God. But when in any spiritual tradition, those who are not mere believers, who take the religion as a passion, they want to see God, they want to realize God, they all have went to that unitary experience. Now, Al-Haq means the ultimate truth. But when you just add an before Al-Haq, it means I am the truth, An Al-Haq. In the Sufi saint, he said An Al-Haq. And then there was persecution. He was killed. Until the last breath, no one could swerve him, that when he was forced that you just say that you can never say that, stop saying that. No one could stop him. Because two things. One is his conviction that I am eternal. There is no death for me. This body will fall off, but I am not going to die. So that makes him fearless. Even if there is a persecution, when he's being killed, he knows no one can kill me. This body is going to fall off. I am. So what can scare him? What can make him afraid? Even till the last breath, he was saying, Anal Haq, Anal Haq. So these examples are there. This real spirituality is in the conviction. When you have that conviction, you become fearless. Because you know that nothing can annihilate you. So what to be afraid of? Even in Swami Vivekananda, in his lecture, he used to speak of a monk who used to reside in a forest. On the other side of the there was a river, and in the one side of the river is a deep forest. On the other side was a village. The villagers could hear the monk constantly chanting, Soham, Soham. I am that, I am that. And one day, the lion got hold of this monk. He was preyed upon by the lion, and the lion started dragging him into the deep forest. And the villagers could hear the fainting voice as he was dragged to the deep forest, at last to be devoured by the predator. Till the last moment, they found the same that chanting was coming. Soham, Soham, I am that. If you don't have that realization, if it's just an intellectual consent, then Sri Ramakrishna very nicely saying in the gospel that you may teach a bird, like a parrot, to recite the name of God. It may go on saying Hari Hari, but go and try to stifle its neck, throttle its neck, and the real wild sound will come out. It will forget saying Hari Hari. So unless we have that conviction, if it is just a mere intellectual consent, know it for certain, at the moment of crisis, it is not going to work for you. So to ascertain this fact, we have spoken of Brahma Yajna, but that Brahma Yajna is not something just a matter of belief. It has to be transformed into your life. It has to be made a matter of realization. Today's imagination should be tomorrow's realization. Ei berali bone gale bon beral hai. Turiyananji's letters are wonderful. That the domesticated cat, you leave it out in the forest for few days, it becomes the wild cat. So what's the idea? That we have been domesticated by this samsara. But actually we are that wild. Wildness speaks of the spirituality, the wilderness of the spirituality, where the soul alone resides. It's the journey of the alone to the alone. In that wilderness, again you get realized, you get established in your own self. This domesticated, we are all domesticated by the so-called samsara. The moment you go to that realization, again you assert your divinity, you become fearless. And for that, the process is there. And that process has been spoken of from the 34th till the last of this chapter, the 42nd. It's a very short chapter, only 42 slokas are there. So the 34th we took up in the last class. What's that? Tadvidhi. We started with that. Tadvidhi pranipatena. How to get that knowledge. How to get established in that knowledge. So the process is, you have to approach a realized soul. You have to approach him who has went to that realization with all humility. You have to serve him. And you have to ask him the questions to get your all doubts clarified, so that you have an intellectual conviction with which you start your spiritual journey. So what's the idea? Tatvidhi, to know that, to learn it, learn that knowledge of Brahman. Pranipatena, by prostration, by bowing down to a realized soul. And then pariprashnena, by inquiry. You should be inquisitive. You should have these questions. That's this inquiry. And by service. Seva doesn't mean physical service. Seva means that after bowing down to the spiritual instructor and trying to get your doubts clarified, at last you get some instructions. That instructions has to be followed meticulously, and that's the real seva. The seva doesn't mean that you have to stay with your guru to serve him. That's not the seva which has been indicated here. The seva indicates the spiritual heritage which the guru himself has acquired from his guru through parampara, through the lineage. And as he has went to the realization, he knows what a treasure it is. Anyone who has a treasure will of course want that it shouldn't get wasted. When I am not there, it should be inherited by someone who is capable of inheriting it. And that's the best way of seva. So when the disciple, by living meticulously the instructions, following the meticulously the instructions of the Guru, and can go to that realization, that's the biggest satisfaction the Guru can have. Yes, this knowledge has been preserved. Now he again can transmit it to someone. It's only through realization it can be preserved. Otherwise it's mere words. So that's the best seva. The seva is to follow the instructions of a realized soul meticulously, so that we can also go to that realization. And that's being indicated as seva. And then upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinam. So this, the wise who have seen the truth, the word is jnaninas tattva darshina. Darshana means to see. Tattva means the truth. There are two words, tattva and mata. Mata is opinion. Bhagavan is not speaking of opinion. He's speaking of the tattva, the truth, not just mata. Tattva. And that tattva is being perceived. It is not again something which I believe in. So tattva darshina. Jnaninas tattva darshina. So to acquire this knowledge, to get established in this knowledge, we have to go to one who will instruct us in that knowledge. And that one is the one who, by following the heritage, who by following the lineage of spiritual teachers, have himself gone to that realization. And then only the knowledge, imparting of the knowledge, will become fruitful. Otherwise it's of no use. So that's the idea. This pranipatena means prostration, is a symbol of humility. That you have that shraddha. You believe in the spiritual truth, and you believe in the words of a guru who has lived that. The spiritual truth he has lived in his life, he has materialized in his life, he has converted into his own realization. So you have faith in such a guru, and then only you can have humility. You go to him. It's not a matter of mere showing humility. You have felt it from the bottom of your heart that he has realized the truth, and that entails in that humility. You go and bow down to him, pranipatena, and then you inquire, you ask questions, that what's the cause of this my relative existence? How I can get rid of this bondage of ignorance? So these are the questions you ask him, and try to assimilate the instructions which he has spoken of. Try to intellectually conceive it, and then get established in it, so that you develop the motivation to start your sadhana. As has been spoken of in the scripture, the three process, sravana, manana, nididhyasana. Hear it, cogitate upon it, go to the intellectual conviction, and now your meditation, the nididhyasana is the meditation on your intellectual conviction till it takes you to that realization. So that's the process which has been spoken of. If you follow that process, then only you can go to that realization which can take you beyond all the dualities and suffering and establish you in that truth. That will be spoken of in the 35th sloka. Yat gyatva, knowing which. Na punarmoham. There is no question of deluding again, getting deluded again. Punarmoham. Yasyasi Pandava. O Pandava, O Arjuna, know it for certain. Once you know it, there is no question of having doubt again, having been deluded again. Just like when I'm dreaming, I don't know I'm dreaming. I think the dream to be true. But the moment I'm awake, the dream breaks. Then I know it was true. It was just a dream. I'm no more scared of what I was seeing in the dream. Now I know it was just dream, it has broken. So that's the idea of not being deluded again. Once you go to the spiritual realization, immediately you understand that it was this life is a long dream. It's a long dream. And the dream has broken. And you are not going to be deluded again. The stories sometimes helps us again and again, that Narada wanted to know that what is Maya. He asked one day to Krishna that, can you explain me what is Maya? And Krishna, instead of giving any answer, just told, I'm feeling very thirsty. See that there's a village is visible quite at a distance. Can you go there and just fetch me a glass of water? Narada told, of course, you just sit under the shade of the tree and I will just go and return with a glass of water. Just wait for a minute. And Narada goes to that village, knocks at the door of one of the house. A beautiful lady opens the door. Narada starts conversing with her. And that conversation gets ripened into love. Narada asks for her hand to his father, to her father. They get married. Narada starts living in that village. They have children, 2-3 children, and he was leading a very happy life. And then suddenly one day, there's a flood came. There was a heavy rain, and the river was overflowing. The dam broke, and the village started getting flooded. And now at the dead of night, all have to flee off. So Narada, in one hand, caught his wife. He had 2 children. Another boy he caught in the other hand, and the youngest one he kept on his shoulder, and with that he was trying to cross the river so that he can go to the other shore and save himself. Now this flow was so strong, the one who was sitting on the shoulder first got carried away. To save that child, he released the hand with which he was holding the elder child. To save that child, it was just a reflex. He released that. This child was also washed away. To save both the child, at last he released the hand with which he was holding the wife. Wife was also washed away. And he himself was also found that this flow is so strong that he is also losing control. He also was washed away, but he was lucky enough to somehow got stuck in a stone which was on the bank of the river, on the other bank of the river. So he was saved. Now he sat down, finding no one, that wife and children have all been washed away. He was crying piteously. Crying piteously. What has happened? Oh Lord, what has happened to me? And then suddenly he felt someone is patting on his back. He looked back and saw Krishna. He told, what about my glass of water? Just one glass. So, and then now you will understand that na punar moham. So this is Maya. It has just vanished in a moment. And then I felt, oh, I just went to have a glass of water, and in such a short time, I have passed many years. I had children, everything in such a short time. Now we read that of this Einstein's theory of this relativity, that's relativity, and we can somehow understand these ideas. It's wonderful. In Vedanta, these stories were there for thousands of years. They had this idea of relativity of time, that it can happen. The relativity of time, where just Krishna has actually asked Narada to go to fetch a glass of water. It was most probably a matter of few minutes. But for Narada, years have passed. He had children, everything. So when we come out of the Maya, we find we are in eternal present. When you alone are there, nothing else is there, the concept of time falls off. The concept of time comes only when there are more than one object and there is a travel between from one place to the other, and then the question of time comes. The idea of concept of time falls off when you alone are there, nothing else is there. With what you will compare the distance? There is no distance, there is a question of time. So when you go to that realization, then suddenly you find that I am in the eternal present. There is no past, there is no future, I am in eternal present. And this thing was like a dream. So now you will understand when scriptures say, when you go to that realization, there is no question of punarmoha. All the delusion falls off. You laugh at yourself. Oh, what the hell I have created in my dream. It was actually a dream. It was not real. That Sri Ramakrishna's stories are so wonderful, that a farmer just had only one son. And one day the farmer, when he woke up from his sleep, he finds that his wife is crying. Piteously she is crying. What has happened? The only son they had, suddenly he died because of some disease. And this wife was, of course, crying piteously. And she found that he was in no way perturbed. He was just sitting quietly. And now she felt that how heartless you are. Your only son has died, and you don't feel any pain, any sorrow, any anguish. And then this man told an interesting thing. Yesterday night I had a dream. In that dream I became the king, and I had 7 children. Wonderful. They were all princes, extremely handsome. And now when you wake up, they are no more there. So now for whom shall I cry? For this your one son or those beautiful 7 sons? For whom shall I cry? So this idea of Vedanta means it's very sometimes difficult to conceive these ideas, but it's wonderful. That in dream, all the things which we are seeing, that becomes untrue when you wake up. Isn't it? And when you are in dream, your wakeful state is no more existent. So what you're experiencing in dream, what you're experiencing in the wakeful state, they are contradicting. But are you ever, do you ever have the idea it is you who were dreaming? It is you when you wake up. The same person who was dreaming now wake up, I find, oh, it was a dream. So the experiencer is the same, isn't it? What you experience, that may be contradicted, but the experiencer is the same. I never doubt that I was dreaming. It is I, the same person was dreaming. So that's what happens when you come out of this dream of the so-called life. And then you find you were always in eternal present. The moha has fallen off. So it's a question of realization. That's why these slokas have been enumerated. That it's not just mere intellectual consent. So then, when you really know that, you go behind the moha. Punar moham eva yasyasi pandava. All the moha falls off. Yena bhutani asheshena drakshyasi atmani atho mai. So you see the entire existence in yourself, and then you see yourself in me. You may say it means almost the same. But now, if you relate to the discussion which we already had, that when you go to that state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, first what happens? The entire existence obliterates. It's no more there. It's as if everything has been absorbed in you. And then the second thing, the ego, that you were feeling that you were that limited conscious principle. That limited idea of individuality falls off. Amness is still there, but it is encompassing. It has no boundaries. It is all pervading. So first, the dissolution of the entire existence speaks of that you see the entire existence in yourself. It has merged in yourself. And then you see yourself merged in me. And when you try to find out, oh, the existence has merged in myself. So where is me? It is nowhere. It is everywhere. So this is the idea. So there's even Buddha. That is a state which is very difficult to speak of. That's why Buddha preferred silence. Whenever he was spoken of the ultimate realization, ultimate truth, he never used to speak of it. And as he never spoke of it, many people used to get confused. They started thinking that he is Nastika, atheist, doesn't believe in existence beyond death. And so he came and told, so you came from nowhere, isn't it? You came from zero. That now we say that Buddhist are Shunyavada. But if you go to the source itself, to Buddha himself, you will find wonderful things he is saying. Have you heard? You all have heard. The other name of Buddha is Tathagata. Tathagata. This word Tathagata was coined by Buddha himself. When someone charged him by saying that you came from Shunya, you are a Shunyavadi. And he told, no, I am Tathagata. The word is very interesting. See, if you break this word, it can be broken in 2 ways. It can be broken as Tatha Agata, becomes Tathagata, Tatha plus Agata. And you can also break it as Tatha plus Gata. Then also it becomes Tathagata. So he told Tatha, the thing which cannot be explained. From there I came, and Tatha Gata, that place is the ultimate destination, which cannot be explained. Again, I will be going there. It's not from Shunya. Tatha, that's same as Brahman. That amness which has no locality. How will you explain it? It's very difficult to explain. So just you say that Tat, it has no gender. Our ultimate reality in the scripture is spoken of as Tat, is a neuter gender. Because no attributes can explain it. No attributes can explain it. It's beyond all the attributes. So that's why it has always spoken of as Tat. Always spoken as Tat. So here, what Bhagavan is saying, that first, when you go to that realization, you see the entire existence, all the sentient and the non-sentient beings, that all other lives as well as which are so-called inert matter, the entire inert existence as well as all other beings is as if merging in you. They obliterate in you, and you yourself get obliterated in me. The Atman becomes Brahman. So that's a wonderful idea. So just see in this slokas are the things which are like mantras. The slokas are mantras. Mantras means mananath trayate iti mantra. If you really cogitate upon them, go deep into them, just not simply swim on the surface by just translating the literal meaning. Sometimes then it is very, very difficult to understand the Gita. You go deep and you will find that the entire spiritual heritage is being revealed from each and every of the slokas. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in the 35th sloka. So this in Samadhi, the physical world, both the sentient and the insentient, gets obliterated. That is what is meant by Yena Bhutani Asheshena Drakshasi Atmani. You see the entire Bhuta, the entire existence, both living and non-living, is in your Atman, Drakshasi. You see in Atmani, in yourself. And then Athomai. And that me, you will find, is no more just that local. It is something which is Brahman, which is one with the Absolute. Athomai, in that Absolute. So Krishna, being the Paramatman. So in Bhagavad Gita, it is also Advaita, but there is a very subtle difference which we should all understand when we are studying Bhagavad Gita, that from the traditional Advaita way of understanding, Bhagavad Gita is a bit different. What's the difference? In the traditional Advaita, they speak of that ultimate reality which is Nirguna Nirakara. This is no guna, and it is having no akara. It is all pervading. But in Bhagavad Gita, whenever Bhagavan is speaking of himself as the ultimate reality, that is not Nirguna. Because he is the doer. He is the one who is the Yagya Adhipati. He is the one who is Mayadhish. He is the one who has made the rules and regulations by which we all have to be bound. So from that, the entire creation has emanated. That also is Advaita. That it is only one from which all have come. It is not Dvaita, it is Advaita. But that ultimate reality is the doer. In Advaita Vedanta, no one is doer. The idea of doer is a delusion. There's a delusion. Because it's we won't enter into the discussion today. In some other, we have discussed previously, and we will again discuss whenever the chance comes, that when you go to the realization, you find that you are not the doer. Brahman is not the doer. The idea of Karta and Bhokta is an illusion. In Bhagavad Gita, we will find God is again and again indicating that He is the ultimate Karta. That then where is the ignorance? The ignorance is why He has become the world. That we don't know. It is He, we at the most we say, Leela Kaivalya. It is His Leela. It is just His play. There is no purpose. If there is a purpose, then again God is also limited. When we do something out of purpose, means I don't have something, I want something, that's why I'm doing. And if you give a sense of purpose to God, then God becomes limited. So they say Leela Kaivalya. It is just a play. He has no purpose. Or just without any purpose, it's coming out of humanity, out of Him. But the idea of that from Him it came, that Mai, that idea is there. That subtle difference is there. We need not go into that too much into it and just go into some pedantic discussions. Just to give an indication that Bhagavad Gita do have that idea of the doership with the absolute reality. But but that doing is again with no purpose. It is just out of lila. So from into you, when you go to that realization, you find the creation is obliterated, and then you find you yourself don't exist. It's not that you become you are going to coma state. You are aware of your existence, but that existence has no locality. The Brahman can be termed as consciousness which is non-local. There's no locality. As you just become identified with that, you get absorbed in that. So that's been spoken of in the 35th sloka. The 36th sloka, what it is saying? And when you go to that realization, what is the thing which happens? Api chedasi papebhya sarvebhya papa krittama sarva jnana plavenaiva vrijinam santarishyasi. And even if you're the most sinful among the sinful, if you're the most sinful among the sinners, api chet asi papebhya sarvebhya papa krittama. Sarva jnana, this jnana is like the fire. Jnana plavenaiva. It's like that fire, or it's like that the raft. Plava is the raft. This raft, this knowledge, this jnana is like the raft with which Santari, you just cross across this ocean of dual existence. Santarishyasi. So, this is a wonderful idea we will find even in this Khandana we sing. The idea that the moment you go to that realization, then what happens? This ocean of existence becomes just like the hoof of a cow. The hoof of a cow is such a small thing, even a frog can jump over it. You will find in the rainy season on the muddy ground, when the cow is working, just strolling, the hoof marks will be on the ground. And when there is a downpour, that hoof mark gets filled with water. It's just a small bit of a ditch in the land, which even a frog can jump. What Swami Vivekananda is saying, Sampada tava sripada bhava goshpada vari yatha. Sampada, treasure. What is the treasure? Tava sripada. Your feet is the treasure. When I have it with me, when I'm holding onto your feet, then what happened? Bhava goshpada vari yatha. Vari means the ocean. The infinite expanse of water, the ocean. That becomes goshpada, just the hoof mark of a cow. Anyone can jump over it. So that's the idea, santarishyasi, that the world of this transmigratory existence, at present I feel as if there is no end. Birth after birth, we have to go through this process of sorrow and dejection, and again sometimes a little happiness. And that's what life is. Nature at some point gives me everything in abundance, and it starts taking away everything from me. The death comes. Again the process is repeated, birth after birth. What's the, after all, the purpose of this type of existence? What's the purpose? We feel as if helpless. And when this jnana is there, you find this jnana is the thing which can take you on the other shore. This raft of knowledge. And it can take you beyond all the papa. Now, in general, in Christianity, the idea is that we are all sinners. And sometimes we find Swami Vivekananda is even Ramakrishna, that we don't like the idea of papa. You are the eternal soul. Why you speak of papa? That you are sinner, sinner, sinner. But here also in Bhagavad Gita we find the idea of the sinner. Now if you take the word sin in its correct intonation, it's a very nice word. What the actual real meaning of sin? Sin means that we all have potentiality to be perfect, but somehow we don't exert to realize that potentiality. This inertia to not realize the potentiality which is hidden within us is sin. That's a very good meaning. But we have narrowed it idea to that any small wrongdoing, or we are committing sin. So if you take it in its correct sense, the idea of sin is the moment you have that idea of ego, that itself is sin. That I am this limited individuality. It is a sin, it is a disease. Why it is a disease? Now when we say we are diseased, you have to have an idea. This is why when we say we are diseased. So when I am healthy, I am not aware of any particular part of my body, isn't it? You see a small child is bubbling with life. That child is not aware of any particular part of the body. Even if it has a small cut, he's not aware. He's jumping. Most probably the parents see that he has got some. When he has got the cut, he doesn't know. He's full of life. And as we grow old, we say we are sick. I am diseased. The word disease means dis-ease. The ease has gone. When the ease has gone, when you start getting awareness of a particular part of your body. See, when health is there, health is permeating through your entire body, throbbing through your entire body. Now, when you're diseased, what you say? I have a headache. I have a heartache. My knees are paining. So the consciousness which was in your entire body is now getting localized. So in spiritual sense, we are all diseased. That is bhava roga. What that? The non-dual consciousness gets localized. Now I start saying, oh, I am this body-mind complex, I am. This is the disease state. And when we are in the disease state, that itself is a state of sin. In English, the word sin is very interesting. S-I-N, sin. And you can say literally as well as spiritually that the core of sin is I. The core of sin is I. S-I-N. Between S and N, I is there, isn't it? The core of sin is I, literally. And even in our day-to-day life, the more we are, concealed with our idea of I, the more sinful we are. That why a man commit crime? Why? Because he is too much busy with himself. I want wealth, even at the cost of others. I want a happy life, even at the cost of the life of others. So sin comes from there. The more you are too much ingrained with yourself, you are bound to be a sinner. So when Bhagavan is saying that even the most sinful among the sinners, what's the basic idea? The more you are ingrained in your idea of this limited individuality, we are prone to sin. The more you can come out of it, the more you are spiritual. That's why in our scriptures, very simply, very nicely, in just 2 lines, they have indicated that what is papa and what is punya. Paropakara punyaya papaya parapiranam. Paropakara. When you are coming out of your idea of your individuality, not me, the preference, all the preference goes to the others. I serve others. I think of others, not me. Paro, that is paropakara. That is punya. You are coming out of your idea of limited individuality. Papaya parapiranam. When for this limited ego, to pamper this limited ego, I even don't hesitate to torture others, torment others, deprive others, exploit others. That is papa. So that's the idea. So that's why Bhagavan is saying that realization as if takes you away from all the sin, because your idea of your limited individual is obliterated. It has fallen off. So with that, everything has washed away. And that alone, this knowledge alone can take you across this ocean of relative existence. So that's the idea. Api ched asi papebhya sarvebhya papakrittama sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrijinam santarishyasi. Easily you, with this knowledge, with the raft of this knowledge, you cross across this ocean of worldly existence, which is full of pankila, papa, which is full of impurities. You cross that. And that's the utilitarian value of this knowledge. So that Swamiji says that whenever I am endeavoring for something, I will first ask, that was the utility of it, isn't it? That even a fool won't do anything unless he knows the purpose behind it, that what I'm going to get out of it. So when you speak of that Brahma Jnana, the immediate question comes, what does it matter? What's the utility of it? So as the first utility, it says that you are washed off from all the sins. You become pure. As in the Bible, we find that famous line, that blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Swami Vivekananda, when giving lectures in the West, he told that if all the religions vanishes from this earth, they're all destroyed. And somehow this one sentence is preserved. It remains. Know it for certain that one sentence is sufficient from which all the various religions will again remanifest. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. It is something which is speaking beyond the Abrahamic religion. In Abrahamic religion, the idea of seeing God is not there. Jesus is something we find as those who have this unitary experience. They are all Vedantins. Not that they have followed Vedanta, that their realization takes to that Vedantic knowledge, same knowledge. Shekhane shop shealer akra, all the fox howls, Sri Ramakrishna's words. When you go to that realization, Shekhane shop shealer akra, all the fox howls in the same manner. In the forest, if one fox howls, all will immediately start reverberating through that sound. You will find that's the way the foxes behave. One fox howls, all the fox will start howling, as if consenting to that what the first one has howled. So Shekhane shop shealer akra, all the fox howls in the same manner when they go to that realization. So that's why we find in all the religion, those who have went to that mystic realization, they're all speaking in the same language. In the Bible, nowhere you will find they're saying, I am one with God. I and my Father are one. The Jesus is speaking. It again speaks of that unitary experience. It speaks of Anal Haq. It speaks of Aham Brahmasmi. I and my Father are one. The believer starts saying, He's Son of God. He can say that. Others cannot say that. That's the way that even the avatars are failure. They come to relate the truth, and sometimes most of the time, instead of relating to the truth, we start worshipping the person. We just forget that what he is indicating, the truth which he is indicating. That Buddha himself told, very interesting thing, that what's the problem with the world? That with the index finger you are pointing to the moon, and all the people's attention is on the index finger. They don't look at the moon. These lives are actually like indicators. With that, something they are indicating. And we start worshipping the indicator, forgetting that it is actually meant to indicate something. So here also the same idea, that this life becomes purified. All this so-called dross falls off. You become an illumined, the moment you become an illumined soul. So all the papa, when the jnana, this raft of knowledge, it takes you across this ocean of ignorance, ajnana. And how does the knowledge destroy sin? How does it happen? Then this again another example he's giving. Yatha edhangsi samidhagni bhasmasat kurute Arjuna. Just like the fire which burns off all the wood into ashes. Edhangsi is the wood, samidha is the wood, and this agni, the fire, bhasmasat, everything, all the samidha, all the wood, it burns into ashes. Similarly, jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. So similarly, the fire of knowledge. That's why always the knowledge is represented with the sun, the fire. It burns off all the works to ashes. Sarva karmani. All the actions. Why we do the actions? Always thinking that I am not fulfilled. For fulfillment, I have to work. I have to get a job. I have to study, whatever I am doing, that I have certain limitation. To go beyond that limitation, karma is there. The moment you realize that you are already fulfilled, you are apta kama, nothing is there for you to desire, you're eternal, then from where the action will come? There's no question of action. So sarva karmani dagdhani, when that knowledge dawns in, all the work gets destroyed. All our work started at the moment the evolution process started. See the bacteria, what it is doing? The small bacterial body, in that the self is getting reflected. And the bacteria thinks, I am the self with the bacterial body. Now, the self is saying, I am eternal. That eternity has to be realized through the bacterial body. And that's why it is evolving. It is fighting against the nature. And as a human being, at last we find, when we have evolved as a human being, that I am already fulfilled as the self. Somehow, because of ignorance, I was trying to realize that eternity, to realize that fulfillment through the body. It was just the echo from where it was coming, and through that I was trying, but it's never possible. I'm already that. And then this false attempt through karma to realize the truth through the body-mind complex falls off. That is the idea of sarva karmani becomes dagdha. It falls off when that knowledge dawns in your life. You get established in that knowledge. So yatha edhangsi samidhogni bhasmasat kuruter janu Arjuna jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. So that's just to give an idea that there are three types of karma which has been spoken of in our scriptures: sanchita, and this prarabdha, and kriyamana. Or this kriyamana is also called agami. That whatever I have done in my previous lives, they are not lost. They remain as sanchita. That they are all stored in my subconscious mind. Of them, a small fund of those stored karma will be fructified in this life. They will be, that is the prarabdha. Not all. There are many karmas which I have done, all will not find effect in this life. A small portion of it will find effect in this life. That is prarabdha. And the actions at present which I am doing, kriyamana, they also will be again stored to yield result in some future birth. So that is kriyamana. So there's a nice example in Vedanta to understand these three types of karma. That one who is an archer, he was hunting a bird. So now he had lot of arrows in the quiver. He has lot of arrows in the quiver on the back, had a bow in his hand, and he took out one arrow from the quiver and put it on his bow and shot that arrow. He was aiming at a bird sitting on the branch of a tree and shot the arrow. And now he was not sure whether the arrow will hit the bird. So to be sure, he just took a second arrow. He took a second arrow and put it on his bow. And he was about to shoot it when vairagya came. The idea of ahimsa came. Oh no, I shouldn't kill the bird. I shouldn't kill the bird. So now, very nicely the scripture is saying that to explain this sanchita, kriyamana and agami karma. All the arrows which are now in your quiver, they won't be used anymore, because now you have taken the resolution that I shouldn't kill other beings. So these are not going to be used. They are sanchita. The one arrow which I am having in my hand, this is kriyamana, which I was going to work upon, is kriyamana. The actions which I am doing at present, which will yield result in future. That also you won't shoot. So kriyamana karma is also not going to be realized. It is not going to be exhausted. It is not going to be realized. So this is not going to be realized. These are not going to be realized. But the arrow which I have already shot, which is yet to hit the mark, can I change its course? I cannot change its course. Either I will miss it or I will hit it. Whatever. If my aim was correct, it will hit the bird. Or if my aim was not correct, it won't hit. But I have no control over it now, isn't it? So prarabdha is that. So some action which has already started yielding result. So even if you are a realized soul, that's the action which has to get exhausted by the momentum getting, finished. When the momentum is over, just the way when the fan is revolving. How to stop the fan? You switch off the fan. But does the fan stop immediately? No. It takes its own time. Because of its past momentum, it will take its time to stop. So realization is just like switching off. Your connection with the psychophysical existence has stopped. You have realized you are the Atman. You are not this body-mind complex. So you have switched off. But the prarabdha, the action which has resulted in this body, that will continue till it is exhausted. But at the same time, you won't have any sense of identification. You will feel body-mind complex is just flowing. You are just witnessing. Whether it is going through the joys and sorrows of life, you are just witnessing. You are not experiencing. And when it gets exhausted, now you get the Atyantika Mukti, the ultimate liberation. But while living, you are still Jivan Mukta. Though you are going through those experiences, you are Mukta. because you don't feel they are yours. You are identified. You are no more identified with them. You are just witnessing. So that way, the prarabdha may take some time. The jnana will be just destroying your sanchita karma. It will be destroying your kriyamana karma. But the prarabdha has to fructify. As Sri Ramakrishna jokingly used to say, that they say that when you take a dip in the Ganges, all your sins are washed away. So a blind man took a dip in the Ganges. So all his sins were washed away. But something resulted in his blindness, isn't it? That is his prarabdha. So that blindness was still there. So that as he took in the dip in the Ganges, that suddenly he will start seeing. No, the blindness is still there, though his sins are washed away. All the papa has been washed away, but the andhatva, the blindness, still continues because there is a prarabdha. That's a very nicely, in simple words, Sri Ramakrishna is explaining. So this is the idea of sarva karmani dagdha karmanam. All your kriyamana as well as the sanchita karma, that gets burnt off, and the prarabdha, till it's exhausted, it has to work out to give you ultimate liberation, the atyantak mukti, the moment they are also exhausted. So that's the idea. A few more slokas are there of this chapter. Hopefully we will complete it in the next class. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskars.